Yes, good. Okay, so I'll just share the link to the form. I prepared the poll so you can choose which topic we'll discuss today. So just to go through them quickly, I had the first one is introduction to Thymio for newbies. So it's really, if you've never heard about Thymio, really want to know what this is about. Then tips and tricks, how to charge, settings, and common questions. This is more practical advice for using Thymio, for maybe for teachers who've already used it in class but have had a few problems or want to, know the good tips. We can talk about the pre-programmed behaviors. So maybe you know, but Thymio has 6 pre-programmed behaviors. So what they are, we'll discuss this and what they illustrate. Then there is programming VPL. So, maybe it's the visual programming language, and now there's a newer version, which is VPL 3. So what are the differences? And yeah, I will introduce a little bit the new things that you can find in VPL 3. Then we can do a programming case study. So I will just have one example of a behavior and show it in 5 different languages. That is VPL, VPL3, Scratch, Blocky, and Aziba script, just for comparison, and explain a bit. There are sometimes a difference in logic and how we treat things. Second to last topic is what to do with Thymio, where to start, where to find resources. This is a very common question. So I'm not a teacher. I don't have much experience in teaching in class, but I can already show you what we have at Mobsya and point you to a few different places where you can find information. And then the last one, that's more fun. It's a history time. I can show what are Thymio's ancestors, how we created Thymio, and other fun trivia. So if you want, you can vote. I put the link to the poll into the chat, and I would just check if I received some answers. But we don't have so many participants, so it's going to be easy to choose. One answer so far. So probably we'll address 2 or 3 topics depending on how much. It really depends if you have questions or if if we spend more time on some topics. I'll give you maybe 2 minutes to answer. Don't hesitate to vote. The link is in the chat. You can find if you don't know where the chat is, there's a little icon on the bottom of your Zoom screen with a speech bubble. One new answer. Thank you. And 3 answers. I think we can stop here because we have only 3 participants in the room. So introduction to Thymio for newbies is the one that has most votes. Also, what to do with Thymio, where to find resources. So we'll address these 2 first. And then third and fourth place, well, third place ex aequo is tips and tricks and programming case study. So I suggest we'll do the tips and tricks because programming case study maybe is a little bit longer. So if we do the introduction and then resources, it might be a little bit too long. Okay, so Thymio. I think someone has their microphone on. Can you just turn off your microphone, please? Because I can hear myself speaking. Thank you. Oh, I put it in front of me. Thymio is this small robot. It was developed at EPFL. It's intended, so the first intention was to use in Robotics Festival. We held workshops for kids. And we wanted them to be able to discover robotics and programming. So actually I can really quickly show you the ancestor of Thymio. This is Thymio 1. That's why the current one, we often call it Thymio, but it's actually Thymio 2. So this is Thymio 1. Come on. So it was a modular robot that you could separate into different pieces. It was not programmable. It had pre-programmed behaviors, and you could actually build and transform any object into a robot thanks to this kit. It had a lot of success, but people were asking all the time, can we program it? It would be much more fun to be able to program the robot. So we developed this one. It has many more sensors because to make programming interesting, you need to have even more possibilities, more sensors. The first one had only infrared sensors in front, and that's all. And it has also pre-programmed behaviors. So it's the first way to interact with the robot directly out of the box. And then you can program it. I will show the programming afterwards. So when you receive this robot, you can turn it on by touching this button 3 seconds. Here it doesn't show a light because it has a program in memory. But if you have a new one, it will start with the with the green color. I just restart it. Oops. So you can browse the behaviors with these arrows, either the top arrow or and there are 6 different colors. Once you've chosen one, you can validate your choice with the center button, and then you will see a light effect is starting. So when the light is pulsating, you are inside one of the behavior. And if you want to go back to the menu, you can press the center button again, and then you can use the arrow. So the first one is the green one. Oops. I have some troubles with the image that's not in mirror mode. When I start it, so it's green, it will show this little display. It's supposed to be like a smile because it's a friendly behavior. This one, if I put it on a table and I film, I will see if I manage to show the desk. Yes, it will just follow my hand. I'm going to deactivate the background because it's more annoying than helpful. So just a second. I'm sorry. Oops, there. Okay, so the first one, the green behavior, is the friendly behavior. As you can see, if I put my hand in front, it's going to follow the movements of my hand. So the goal of all these behaviors is to showcase actually the different possibilities you have with Thymio, to show that you have one, let's say, material, one hardware. It's always the same sensor, it's always the same robot, but it can have different behaviors depending on how it is programmed. So these are sample programs if you want. The friendly one is going to use the infrared sensor. So there are 4 infrared proximity sensors in front, 2 on the back, and also there are 2 on the bottom that are not used in this behavior. And yes, so this one is going to follow my hand. Then if I go back to the menu, I can see that if I go to the red mode, this one is fearful. It's the same. When I place it on the table, it doesn't move. But if I put my hand in front, it just goes back. It also uses the accelerometer, so there is shock detection. And also, if I throw it in the air, it will detect the free fall and it makes some sound effect and light effect. Then yellow behavior is the explorer. If I start it, Thymio goes around, avoids my hands. All these behaviors, actually, I can show. If they reach the end of the table, they will stop. They use the bottom sensors to stop. They don't fall off the table. But I want to say that Thymio is quite robust. So even if it falls, I mean, it's certified as a toy. It means it goes under some quite rough testing. It's heat and everything. So if you make it fall from the table, it's no problem. It shouldn't break. Then the blue behavior, so dark blue, because there is a cyan or light blue mode. This one it just reacts to sound. So unfortunately, it doesn't work so well in a classroom if there is a lot of noise, because it will be difficult to discriminate between your hands clapping and children making noise around. But what I can do, I just, yeah, it's already started. If I clap my hands, oh, twice, sorry. So you see it counts and it starts moving. If I clap twice again, it stops. Then once it's moving, if I clap once, it will change, turning or going straight, turning, going straight. And if I clap 3 times, it will do a special movement with the rainbow light effect. The goal of this behavior is that actually you could put a pen inside the hole. Just take a paper, just a sheet of paper. And if you put the pen in here, you could make a drawing. I'm going to try to draw a square. Okay, not really a square, but that's something. Then this behavior, light blue, is the one that follows a track. So either you use a pencil to a pen, black pen, to draw a track on a white paper, or we have some kits where there are some tracks. For example, this one. I'm sorry, it's a bit big for my desk, but I can show you very quickly that Thymio is going to just follow the black track. Oops. Of course, it works better if you put it on a flat surface. And then the last behavior, the magenta pink one. This one is like remote controlled. So you can use a remote controller. We have some that are in some kits. I think if you have a Thymio suitcase, or if in the challenge pack there used to be a remote control, or you can use the buttons like forward, faster, backwards, and turning. This one doesn't stop at the edge of the table. Okay, back to here. So with these pre-programmed behaviors, you can already show quite a lot. And oh, I see that there are some questions in the chat. I will try to answer the questions at the end, because otherwise it's going to be difficult to manage. So with these pre-programmed behaviors, there are already some activities that you could do. Actually, I know that in primary school, they do some, you have some sheets that you have to fill, and it's kind of an experimental process. You have to observe, try to describe the behavior, try to experiment how the robot is reacting, and understand like this. Then you can have programming with this robot. So there are different, oh, yeah, one more thing. There are 2 versions of the robot. One is the wireless one. The wireless robot has a little USB key like this that you can plug to the computer, and then you can program it with the distance. Otherwise, the not wireless one, you have to plug a cable, and it can be less convenient if you want to program. If you use the pre-programmed behaviors, it doesn't make a difference, but if you want to program, it's more useful to have the wireless one, I would say. If you want to upgrade your robot, that's also possible, except for really old, the first 1000 robot that we made, they were not, it's not possible to upgrade them, but otherwise, the only difference is that we just add a little module inside the robot, we solder it, and then you have this USB key, and you can program it wirelessly. So now I'm going to share my screen to show you the programming interface. Oops. So if I plug the robot, you can see, do you see my screen? Yes, good. So this is Thymio Suite. You can find it on our website. If you install it, it will install the driver for Thymio and also all the different programming languages. You have to, once you've installed it and you start it, you can choose between the different programming languages that you would like to use. So VPL is a visual programming language. I'm going to show very quickly. VPL3 is the new version of this. Then there's Scratch that is quite well known. Blocky is a little bit similar to Scratch, but there are some differences which I will explain. And Aziba Studio, this is the script programming language. So you have to type code. It's the native language of Thymio. So once you click a programming language, here I clicked on VPL, you can see the list of robots that are available. If I plug a new robot, I just add a USB key to my hub and it should appear here. It takes a little bit of time because of Zoom. Zoom slows things down a lot. But here you see it's available. Then I can choose. I could actually rename the robot to let's say give them the name of the students who's using them. And then I can program one robot. So I select it. I click on program with VPL. And here is the interface. So this interface is very easy to use. What you will do is that you will combine events and actions. So that means if something happens, then you do that. For example, if I touch the front button, then I want the robot to turn red. Then I click on play. That means I will give the code to the robot. And yeah, if I show you, if you look at my image, you will see that if I push the button, then the robot becomes red. So with this programming language, the advantage is that you don't need to be able to read. It's very easy to combine events and actions, and it's a very easy thing to understand. You know, the if then, it's a condition that is very easy for kids to understand. Oops, then I will very quickly show you the other interfaces. So VPL3 is very similar, it's a newer version. It has just more possibilities. So in the previous one, it was one event and maybe several actions. Let's say when you push the button, you could turn a light and make some sound. And here you can combine actually events. So you can make some more complex programs. Let's say if I push the button and my robot was pink at this moment, then I do this action. So this means that if I touch the center button but the robot is not pink, this action will not be performed. I will not go into detail here because otherwise we won't have time to discuss everything. Scratch. So we actually have an extension that was added to Scratch. If you want to program Thymio with Scratch, you have to use the version of Scratch that is included in our Thymio suite. Because if you use the Scratch that is online, then our extension is not listed there. I'm not sure if that will be possible in the future, but for now, they don't want to add our extension to the normal Scratch. So when you do this, it's the normal Scratch interface and with a little bit bigger. But at the bottom of all the blocks, you have Thymio blocks, Thymio specific blocks. And here, the interface is in French. Can I change? Yes. You have blocks that they all have the Thymio logo. They are specific to Thymio. So for example, you would have some events like when the button is pressed, some actions like the turn on the LED or set the motor speed. And with this, you can program Thymio. What is important to understand with Scratch is that as Scratch was designed to create animations and games, you know, with sprites on the computer, all the code is executed on the computer. So you always have to have the connection between the robot and the computer, because otherwise, Scratch cannot create code for the Thymio to run independently. It's always kind of remote control. So if you write a condition, let's say if I press the button, this will be checked inside the computer. The computer is going to ask the robot, like, is your button being pressed right now? And if the robot says yes, then the computer decides to take an action. So that means that you cannot create behavior put it on the robot and have the robot, you know, when you turn off the computer, it's going to stop. And when you turn off Scratch, it's going to stop. And sometimes communication can become a little bit slow because there's a lot of messages that are exchanged between the robot and the computer. So sometimes you will notice that you have problems with the behavior that's not going correctly. So you just need to add maybe a little bit of waiting between two commands, because otherwise it means that there are too many messages between robot and the computer. And then Blocky. So Blocky is an interface that looks like Scratch. So there are also blocks like this. English. Let's say you have if blocks, you have, but the blocks are more specific to Thymio. It's really an interface with blocks that was made for Thymio. Of course, Blocky, I mean, exists for other devices or other contexts, but this one was really tuned to Thymio, so it really creates a program for the robot. And if you actually create something, you can see that if I do this, for example, this is similar to what I did in VPN in the beginning. When I touch the button, then the LED should turn red. You can see the equivalent ASIBA code, native code. So this code will be sent to the robot afterwards. And then you can turn off Blocky and your robot will still run the code. The final interface is ASIBA. Oops, I didn't open in the right window. Come on. So that's what ASIBA looks like. You have the code. So here you already have code because I programmed it with Blocky just before and it remembers the code. You have one window to view the variables. So what are the variables? It's all the internal states of the robot. For example, if you look at this variable here, horizontal, this is the proximity sensors. So if I put my hand, if you look at these numbers here, they're going to change as I put my hand in front of the robot, or if I remove them. And then you have all the functions and everything. So this is more technical. Of course, you need to be able to type some code. But actually, in the past, we have also used it with children. I think it really depends on whether they are comfortable with the keyboard, and also because this interface is only in English, it's more difficult for them to understand. So I think in this case, Blocky or Scratch is more useful. And by the way, all the commands that you find in Blocky are going to be the same names as the one that you find in ASIBA. Okay, I think, what else can I say about Thymio? Of course, there are a lot of teachers who are already using Thymio in class. So if you go to Hoteco, I will talk also a bit about that was the second topic, where to start, what to do with Thymio. So normally there should be a lot of activities also on Hoteco, and otherwise you can find some stuff on our website. I can share some addresses. I don't know if I'll be able to share some links afterwards for people to check out, but I will send some two links in the chat, which you can already visit. One is one page from the Thymio website, which lists a lot of activities and resources. And the other one is the one, oh, sorry for the advanced word at the end, doesn't anything. The second link is from INRIA in Bordeaux, actually. It's a forum called, it's in French, is called Dessine-moi un robot, and actually they're one among the first who really adopted Thymio in schools. And they've developed a lot of resources that are also very interesting. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen and I will show on the camera the resources that we have. So for beginners, everything you can find on our website. Right now, it's not very easy to find, but very soon we will have a new version of the website, and there will be one page called resources, and then you will be able to find everything, sort them out by programming language or age, targeted age, and language in which it's available. Most of the things we try to have in French, English, German, and Italian, but sometimes the translation process takes a little bit longer, so it might not be available right away. Okay, so resources that we have. We have this Thymio Discovery Kit. So this can be bought, but you can also download this open source. So you can download it from our website and print it yourself. This includes one sheet like this that presents Thymio, introduces Thymio with the sensors, then explanation of the buttons, the behaviors, very short, but just a reminder. And then there is a track I will show you afterwards. It's the one that I unfolded before. And here behind you have some small exercises to do around this track. Most of them, they use the pre-programmed behaviors and also the VPL programming, so basic programming. I will show you the track that goes with it. So this is the Discovery Kit. Okay, it's an A1 poster that is printed. If you want to print this yourself, just a note about the detection of the track. Sometimes some printers, they print something black that is not very a deep black, or that reflects a lot of light. So maybe the robot has some problems to detect the track. But if you notice this, just add some, black pencil or black marker, and it should solve the problem. It's easy. What we also use is some black tape, electrical tape to create tracks, and some big black markers is very useful. I just see on the chat, did you see send links here? If yes, I don't see any. Yes, I did send links. Oh, okay. I made a mistake. Sorry. Now you should see the links in the chat. Okay, so that was the first resource, the Discovery Kit. Then we have the challenge activities. Oops. This is also something that you can find on our website. It's also open source. It's in 4 languages, and you can buy it if you want to have the paper version. It's a box, and you have several things inside. I hope this one is complete. Oops. I'm going to show quickly. There are, yes, there's a deck of cards like these. So these are activity cards. Each of the cards has one challenge. So they're bilingual, and then there's another deck of cards for German and Italian. On one side, you have a description of the challenge, and on the other side, you have a solution. There are different categories. So the yellow cards, they're all with the pre-programmed behaviors. Then the green cards, they're with the VPL, but the, let's say, easy mode or beginner's mode. And then pink cards are with advanced, more advanced VPL programming. So every time you have the challenge and solution behind. Included with this, you have some activity sheets. So this could be, these are, let's say, targets to cut out and use on your track, or some obstacles. This is cut out things. And then you have one track. This one is smaller than the one in the Discovery Kit. It's A3. No, A2, sorry. You can do activities around. And there is the easy guide, also in 4 languages. This one is the English one. So this one is the introduction. you have presentation of the robot, the sensors, and then you have the pre-programmed behaviors, how to turn on and off. And this one, oops, a little bit bigger, is the introduction to VPS. So how to start. I think it could be a little bit outdated. I will just check it. Maybe in the next print we will update it. But most of the information is correct, and you have description of all the blocks. For example, yes, VP advanced blocks and basic blocks. So that's the challenge activities. Then more specifically for teachers, we have books. So there was this book that was made. So the one I have here is in French, but it's two books that go together. Right now, we don't print it anymore, this version, but you can download everything on the website. It's also open source. One book is for the teacher. Every time, so first there are also introductions and everything, and then there are some pages with activities. Just, yeah, okay, for example, this one. And every time you have the, oops, how long it lasts, the pitch of the activity, description, and then if you need to have some, so this is really instruction for a teacher to use in class. And then here, the second book, which you can also download the PDF, as a PDF, is actually activity sheets. So some sheets that you have to cut out or that you have to photocopy. Let's say, for example, this one is a mask for the robot. So these two go together. And now there's a newer edition of this in the form, if you go to the link that I shared, I also link for all those books. This one is the newer edition. It's actually in a file. It's a smaller format. There are some introduction. It's also been updated. The content has been updated. And you always have, so here you have functioning, pedagogy, activities, and then the student sheets. And you can just take them out and photocopy them. This one you can buy from Stripes in Italy. Right now, I think it's only in French and Italian, and it should be translated. I know that the process of translation was ongoing. So for example, one student sheet, one activity sheet. Like for example, this one is how to count with Thymio. And then there is also, well, this one is more advanced, I guess. Can you just write in the chat maybe which level you're teaching, like which grade or what the age of your student? Can you please tell us how students can benefit from this system and methodology? I'm not sure I can, how can I say? I can say, I think personally, I think that the main advantage of having a robot like Thymio is to bring, but I mean, that's really my personal opinion, because I know that some other people see other advantages. But for me, it brings a different way of teaching. You know, you can really touch it, do it yourself. I think it has really an advantage when you do a project, and it can be very quick until you take the robot, you start, do only a few things, and you can see it move, and you know that the student knows that they did it themselves. I think it can really bring new motivation, and because it's really hands-on, and you can do some projects, and then that depends really on you, because if you give everybody an assignment and work in their own place, maybe that doesn't happen. But if you give project and some more, I mean, the students I personally followed were more teenagers, like in high school, and they had projects, and they really had to find the information themselves. When you give a challenge with a robot, there's not only one solution. So you cannot just wait until the solution is given and say, okay, that was how it was done. You could have different possible solutions. And so you have to really investigate, find your own answers, and test, and get this methodology of always testing, iterating, trying to find why it doesn't work. Many times also when I saw students in high school, the teacher was not necessarily much more proficient than them with the robot. So they really could, they couldn't rely on him. It was really, it was their project. They had to choose their own goal. They had to evaluate themselves if they reached this goal. And the teacher was there to guide them or to help them. If they say, okay, I'm blocked, I don't know how to do this, they could discuss and try to unblock and go further. So for me, the advantage of Thymio is really this hands-on aspect, project approach, and also if you work in group, it can help with collaboration. I know that in primary school, many people like to use it for creativity, because if you start to build around, some children can form an emotional bond with the robot. Also, it's used to illustrate like the investigation process. You have to observe, make your own observations of the robot. But some people also use it just to teach robotics, because maybe it's more, they think, or to teach programming. Maybe they think it's more motivating than, let's say, creating a website or something. It's just, one choice. Yeah, back to resources. One more resource that I wanted to show is this book, 1, 2, 3 Coder. This is the second time. This was edited by a French association, La Main à la Pâte. And this one has more, as you can see here, more scratch exercises. So it's a little bit for older students. And then if you want to do some more advanced things, I would advise, but it's really end of high school and university level. There's this book by Francesco Monada. It's not specifically about Thymio. Thymio is not mentioned, but if you look at the exercises, it's very, it's about one small robot with 2 wheels and a few sensors. So of course you can implement all these exercises in with Thymio. And actually, if you go on the website, we also share the link, Elements of Robotics. So that's the more advanced book. On this website, you also find a Ziba code for all the examples that are cited in this book. And there are a lot of them. The book is also free. It's also open access, so you can download the whole book if you don't want to buy a physical copy. Apart from that, I can also tell you that we are releasing at the end of the month, so very soon, an interface for Python. Well, not an interface, but instructions how to use Python on Thymio. And there will be lots of exercises which can be good also for high school level. So an introduction how to connect to the robot, and then the resources, the main resource will be how to program the robot in Python. So how to do this pre-programmed behaviors. There are some problems that are very typical of robotics, like line following, obstacle avoidance. So these would be addressed in these examples. I think that's it for the resources. Of course, yeah, Hoteco, our website, but just a little bit of patience. Is going to be much better once the new website goes live. It's in the final stage. It will be much easier to find the resources. And Hoteco, the Dessine-moi Robot forum is also very good. And then, yeah, tips and tricks for the robot. So if you have some robots, some very common problems include I think the first advice I would give is about charging the robot. Sometimes people buy robots and they leave them alone for 1 year, 2 years. In this case, it's very common that the robot enters a deep discharge, because even when it's off, it's still consuming a little bit of current. So if you want to leave them for a very long time, either open them and just unplug the battery, it will keep for longer, or every 6 months or so, take them out and recharge them. Because if the robot enters deep discharge, then it will look like it's not working at all. It's going to make a strange, I mean, if it's working, if it's just even starting, it's going to make strange sound and lights. And actually, it might just also damage the battery. It's a little bit difficult to get a battery out of deep discharge. So if you have one robot, like let's say you left it for 2 years and it's not working at all, just try to recharge it. But use not a computer, but a wall charger. So in any case, the most efficient way to charge the robot is to plug it to a wall charger, because it will have more current. And if it turns on, just turn it off again. Thymio's are probably, if you've used them, you've noticed that when you plug them to a USB, they will turn on. So try to turn them off and they will charge faster. I mean, that's a constant. That's the most efficient. And the least efficient is, of course, when they're on and plugged to your computer, it's going to take a long time, especially if it's a laptop. Maybe it's not going to be able to provide a lot of power. I'm going to take my note. What else for tips and tricks? Yeah, when you want to do line following, or if you want to use the pre-programmed behaviors in the let's see, in the red, yellow, or green mode, be careful to be on a white table, because if you use a transparent table over a darker table, it might detect it as the edge, and then you will think that your robot is not working at all because it's not moving anymore. One very common problem also is that when you leave your finger on the button for too long, the Thymio is not going to be able to react anymore, because the filters adapt constantly. For example, here, now if I press, I don't manage to turn it on again. So if this happens, just leave it for 10 seconds and it's probably going to work again. If you try to upgrade the firmware and you have a problem, sometimes the robot is not going to be unresponsive. And in all the cases, we always manage to bring them back, let's say, by re-upgrading the firmware. So if you have any problem like this, don't hesitate to also contact us. If you go to our website, I think it's thymio.org/help. There are always some contact forms, and we will try to reply as soon as possible.